Only two men in all of American history have ever pulled this off, losing the White House, then fighting their way back to win it again. The first was Grover Cleveland in the 1890s, and now Donald Trump has done it too. But here's the thing, Cleveland's second term didn't go the way people thought it would. It was full of challenges, controversy, and tough decisions that shaped his legacy forever. So today, we're asking what lessons from Grover Cleveland's comeback could tell us what to expect from Donald Trump's second term. Hi, welcome back to the channel. If you're passionate about history, politics, and understanding how the past shapes the present, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to break down 5 key lessons from Grover Cleveland's second term. Lessons that could give us real insight into what Donald Trump might face during his second, non-consecutive presidency. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our deep dives into history and politics. Let's set the stage. Grover Cleveland was the 22nd and 24th President of the United States, the only president in history to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. He lost re-election in 1888, but came back 4 years later to reclaim the White House in 1892. Fast forward to today, Donald Trump has just done the same thing, becoming both the 45th and 47th president. This is something no other modern president has ever accomplished. Both men came back with huge public attention, strong bases of support, and major promises to fix what they believed was broken in America. But Cleveland's second term was a bumpy ride full of economic turmoil, political division, and a test of leadership. That's why looking back at Cleveland's experience isn't just interesting, it might actually give us a preview of what Trump's next 4 years could look like. When Grover Cleveland returned to the White House in 1893, the nation was watching closely. His comeback was historic. No president had ever left office and then come back 4 years later. Supporters saw him as a man of principle who would restore honesty and stability to government. Newspapers celebrated, crowds cheered, and there was a real sense of hope that his second term would deliver big results. But that optimism was short-lived. Only a few months into his presidency, disaster struck. The nation was hit with the Panic of 1893, one of the worst economic depressions in U.S. history. Banks failed, businesses collapsed, unemployment skyrocketed, and millions of Americans faced poverty almost overnight. Cleveland, who had campaigned on fiscal responsibility and sound money policies, suddenly found himself blamed for everything. His opponents accused him of doing too little to help struggling Americans. Even many of his own supporters grew frustrated, feeling like the president they had just brought back to power wasn't delivering the relief they expected. This is a powerful reminder for Trump. Right now, he is at the height of his comeback moment. His victory was dramatic. His supporters are energized. And many people are hopeful that his second term will fix the problems they care most about, whether that's the economy, immigration, or global standing. But history shows that a comeback president has a very short window of goodwill. Public patience can run out quickly, and the media spotlight is intense. If major crises hit early, whether economic, international, or political, the honeymoon period can vanish almost instantly. For Trump, this means the first year of his second term is crucial. The actions he takes right away, the tone he sets, and the speed at which people feel improvement will determine whether he stays in control of the narrative or ends up on the defensive, just like Cleveland did in 1893. If there's one thing that defined Grover Cleveland's second term more than anything else, it was the economy. The Panic of 1893 triggered a full-scale financial meltdown, and Cleveland was forced to respond. He focused on what he believed was the root problem, restoring confidence in the gold standard and protecting the country's financial integrity. He even risked his political popularity to stick to what he believed was sound economic policy, calling a special session of Congress to repeal the Sherman Silver Purchase Act, a law he believed was destabilizing the nation's currency. But here's the catch. Cleveland's actions didn't provide immediate relief for struggling Americans. Farmers, workers, and the unemployed were desperate for help. But his focus on long-term stability made him look cold and unsympathetic to their suffering. His approval ratings plummeted, his party lost support in Congress, and by the time he left office, his reputation had taken a major hit. This lesson is critical for Donald Trump. Like Cleveland, he returns to office at a time when the economy is one of the top concerns for voters, whether it's inflation, housing costs, or job growth. Trump's ability to deliver fast, visible economic improvements could determine how successful his second term is viewed. The challenge is that economic policy is tricky. Big moves like tax changes, deregulation, or trade deals can take time to show results. If everyday Americans don't feel those improvements quickly at the gas pump, in grocery stores, in their paychecks, frustration can set in. History tells us that even a president with strong support can lose that support quickly if people feel their financial lives are getting worse, not better. Cleveland learned that the hard way, and Trump will need to make sure he learns from it. By balancing long-term policy goals with immediate relief that Americans can actually see and feel. Another major challenge Cleveland faced during his second term was division, not just in the country, but inside his own party. When Cleveland came back into office, the Democratic Party was split into different factions. Some supported his push to stick to the gold standard. Others wanted free silver to inflate the currency and help debt-burdened farmers. Some wanted government intervention to create jobs during the Depression. While Cleveland believed in limited government action and sticking to traditional Democratic principles of fiscal restraint, this infighting meant that even though Cleveland had returned to the White House with a mandate from the people, he struggled to get things done. Congress frequently clashed with him, his vetoes angered progressives in his party, and by the midterm elections of 1894, Democrats suffered one of the worst defeats in American history, losing control of Congress and weakening Cleveland's ability to lead. This is where Donald Trump faces a similar challenge. Yes, he has a loyal base of supporters, but his party is not completely united. There are establishment Republicans who may not fully back his agenda. There are more libertarian-leaning members of Congress, and there are populist allies who may want him to go even further than he plans. If Trump wants to make his second term effective, he will have to keep his party working together, at least enough to pass legislation and avoid internal rebellion. Disunity can stall major policies, weaken public confidence, and make it harder to deliver on campaign promises. Cleveland's experience shows that a comeback president who loses the support of his own party quickly becomes politically isolated. For Trump, party unity could be the difference between a productive 4 years and a gridlocked presidency. If there's one thing that haunted Grover Cleveland during his second term, it was public perception. Cleveland was known as a man of principle, honest, stubborn, and unwilling to bend to political pressure. That integrity had helped him win the presidency twice. But during his second term, it also made him look distant and unfeeling. As the Depression deepened, Cleveland refused to use government resources for large-scale direct aid, believing it wasn't Washington's job to provide relief. He thought he was protecting the Constitution and future stability, but many Americans saw it as cold indifference to their suffering. The press portrayed him as out of touch. Political cartoons mocked him. Public opinion turned harshly against him. This is a huge lesson for Trump. Unlike Cleveland, Trump thrives on media attention, but that spotlight cuts both ways. In today's 24/7 news cycle, every decision will be amplified, every mistake will be attacked, and every success will be celebrated or challenged depending on who's telling the story. Trump will need to stay ahead of the narrative and continue speaking directly to his supporters, something he has always been skilled at. If he loses control of the story, if the headlines are dominated by crises, scandals, or unpopular decisions, his ability to lead effectively could suffer, just as Cleveland's did. Perception can be more powerful than reality. Even if policies are working in the background, if people don't feel like progress is being made, approval ratings drop, opposition grows, and history may judge the term harshly. For Trump, this means communication is as important as policy. He has to show not only that he's doing things, but that those actions are improving the lives of ordinary Americans, because in politics, how people feel about a presidency often matters just as much as what actually happens. Finally, perhaps the most important lesson from Grover Cleveland's second term is this. History doesn't just remember a dramatic comeback, it judges what happens after the victory. Cleveland's return to the White House in 1893 was celebrated as a triumph. Newspapers praised his honesty, voters cheered, and the country had hoped that he would restore stability and leadership. But his second term was marred by events he couldn't control. The Panic of 1893, massive unemployment, strikes, and political infighting. Despite his principled leadership, history often remembers Cleveland more for the economic turmoil and difficulties of his second term than for his historic comeback. His legacy was shaped not by his return, but by the results or the struggles during his time back in office. This is a lesson that Donald Trump must take seriously. A dramatic win in 2024 made history, and his comeback is already headline news around the world. But his place in history will be defined not by the excitement of that victory, but by the policies he implements, the crises he handles, and the way he navigates political, economic, and social challenges over the next 4 years. A strong start can fade if the public and history feel that promises weren't fulfilled, if crises weren't managed, or if governance is seen as ineffective. Conversely, smart leadership, careful decision-making, and visible results could solidify a successful legacy, just as it can rescue a president from early skepticism. In short, Cleveland's experience shows us that a comeback is just the first chapter. The real story and the lasting legacy is written by what a president actually accomplishes while back in power. So, what can we take away from Grover Cleveland's historic comeback and second term? First, the honeymoon ends fast. Momentum alone isn't enough. Second, the economy can make or break a presidency, and immediate results matter. Third, party unity is crucial. A divided team can sink even the strongest leader. Fourth, public perception is everything. How people feel often outweighs the facts. And fifth, history judges the whole term, not just the comeback. What you accomplish matters more than how you got there. Donald Trump's second term will be watched closely, both in the United States and around the world. Cleveland's story reminds us that comebacks are exciting, but leadership is tested in the difficult moments that follow. Now it's your turn. Do you think Trump will avoid the mistakes Cleveland made, or will history repeat itself? Comment below with your thoughts. I want to hear what you think. If you found this breakdown helpful, give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe for more historical insights, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into history and politics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.